Welcome everybody to Sustainable River Basin Management Module 4.1 Part 3. We were talking about water allocation last time, and this is what we will be continuing this time. Let's first of all now move into water allocation principles. Those include allocation policies, they include water rights. Those could be unified water rights or specific or continuity water rights, different types. It also includes institutions. There should be a regulatory responsibility separated from, for instance, service provision. This is in terms of accountability important. As a water allocation principle, there should be an aspect included on groundwater and surface water allocation in conjunction. In most cases, those are separated by different authorities, and in many cases, the river basin organizations that we talked about last time are only dealing with surface water bulk allocation, and groundwater is already singled out from their responsibilities. So the principle should be that both are managed in conjunction. There should be water needs of the environment should be incorporated, and the social water needs should be specified and taken care of separate from the other allocations. And there should be a prioritization of water uses, and that prioritization should be in that following order. This is an order here from 1 to 4. In the first location, first priority should be always given to the environment and the health of our water resources. The second priority should be given to the specific human needs, which means drinking water, sanitation. We talked about basic water needs earlier. This is in terms of priority at the second stage. Then it is followed by economic value of the water use, and the general social values come at the fourth, for public water features, for landscaping, and so on. Those would fall under social values. Now, in many cases, the economic value has been taken up to the first level, and only later we realize that there are human needs and there are ecological and environmental functions which are important to secure the water for the economic purposes, which are then at this point maybe degraded already substantially. In terms of economic value, what we mean here is that we can balance water use according to the value that we gain from that water use. There are more allocation principles. There should be one on disaster management, how to deal with drought, how to deal with flood events, and similar. There should be an information sharing and stakeholder participation as a principle, and there should be mechanisms for conflict mediation and conflict resolution. Let's look into the example of India, which has 3 water supply principles. The first is dealing with managed water consumption. Second is on water conservation in domestic and commercial buildings. And the third is on salient water features in green buildings. Now, the priorities are here on an economical and optimal use. And in that respect, allocations were revised now to allow industries to grow. For instance, this comes along with the reclassification of land use areas to provide, to convert farming land into, for instance, residential areas or into industrial development areas. So this is connected to water allocation. Another one is the prevention of wastage and leakage. This is focusing on technologies and multiple usages, reuse and recycling are promoted, or basic water supply principles and desalination is being built into the water supply principles. Important also water saving technologies and innovations and rainwater harvesting. Now remember, looking at this list here, the chart that I showed you earlier on our adjustment strategies, and also think about the level of commitment of river basins in India. And then you can see that all these water supply principles are very helpful. However, they will not really take us to a final positive solution, because many of the rivers are overcommitted. So desalination may be one option to ease the situation right now, but it should not become the long-term solution. So long-term solution is on rainwater harvesting, groundwater enhancement, on the restoration of the functions of entire river basins. This may come along with the decommissioning also of river infrastructure, basin storages and so on, or the restoration of the connectivity of these river basin infrastructures. Let's just take another example, another angle of water supply principles, and this is the example from Germany. In this case, the first is prioritize local water supply before transporting water from distant locations. This is very interesting. The preference for composite systems or interconnected systems, this is to guarantee some level of redundancy and also some level to balance load when at certain times or certain parts of the year when more water is required or less water is being consumed during nights, for instance, to guarantee that the loads can be properly balanced throughout the supply system. The supply of water shortage areas and areas with special water requirements should take place through regional supply networks. So besides the local solutions, there should be a network of supply systems at a regional scale, and there should be a multiple use and reuse of water, and also the restoration of water resources, of water bodies or aquifer systems is one of the principles. Now, having talked about these principles, let's now move into the water resources allocation tools. And there are essentially two of them. The first is a so-called command, control, or sanction tool, and the second are economical instruments. In many cases, many countries, we can see a combination of both of these water resource allocation tools existing. Now let's try to understand what is the command control tool. It includes the restriction. It has three levels: restriction, prohibition, and rationing of water. Specifically, there might be a legal prescription that can have a direct impact on the range of options open to a specific social actor. It can constrain certain ways of acting or using water or having access to water, or it could exclude someone from having access to water or conducting certain activities, some farming, for instance, in certain areas. So this is not providing incentives to conserve water or to be more efficient, this has been controlled by the way the water is provided from its very beginning. It's rationed, you only receive a given amount, and which will be available only for a given period of time, and then you have to expect another quantity to be given, and so on. And either you finish this amount, or you will probably not receive another portion next time water's been provided. So it's not, in that way, not giving the flexibility of an individual water user to influence its water use behavior in a positive manner. It requires monitoring and enforcement, and that enforcement in many cases can only work if there's also a comprehension, that somebody understands why this is going to happen and why this needs to be enforced. There must be mechanisms in place to enforce it, for instance in the way of the license withdrawal or even prosecution. What we can say about this is that such a command control system should only be used in very rare situations, as it really requires resources to monitor and enforce the system. Such rare situations could be a drought, it could be the outbreak of diseases, but it should not be a lasting, a long-term solution or the approach to water allocation over in a certain area, in a certain context, or in a river basin. It could, for instance, and this is applied in many countries, be, for instance, that watering of lawns or washing of cars or swimming pool use or things like this would be restricted during situations of droughts, for instance. That would be a comprehensive measure of a command control or sanction tool implementation. Now, the second completely different approach to water allocation is the use of economical instruments or economics in water management. This is stepping out of this predefined frame by rationing and restricting policing. It is about making choices over scarce resources, or when there's a huge resource competition. There may be, for instance, polluted water only as the only resource, and still it has to be consumed or made available to be usable. Or there may be financial investments necessary to take water to the users, to implement a water supply system, and all this requires economics behind the water management. So some of the very basic economic principles, and remember the white paper principles proposed by the water supply industries, which I presented earlier to you. Those very basic economic principles are the rational use of resources, assuming that we are not wasting anything if there's no specific benefit coming from that, the cost recovery, and the polluter pays principle. The tools I mentioned already are the so-called economic and financial instruments to this. Let's quickly touch upon the financial instruments and finance and water management without going very much deeper into this later. This is about specific decisions taken by organizations or firms, and that could be public or private or both, a combination, to maximize short or long run returns to their assets and investments. And this is general and very much applicable also to water infrastructure. Now, those financial instruments are used in various ways. They are used in the investments into new connections. This is to expand a network or to expand into new utilities. It is used to invest in expansion and upgrading in terms of area or in terms of water user numbers. It also includes the finances on operation and maintenance, and also the costs for the water treatment. Now, there are various types of financial instruments, which of some of them we will come back, are very important. We'll talk about those when we come to economic instruments, because they come in combination with the financial instruments. One of them is the charges for use or benefits from water. So one is water use, but also there might be charges for benefiting from available water in the form of water tariffs. There may be national or local government grants or soft loans and guarantees. Those could be payments from from state or municipal budgets. There may be external grants or concessional loans, or there may be some philanthropic agencies, some NGOs, some foundations, some individuals, or there may be commercial loans and equities. All of those are important because water projects usually are large scale in terms of financial requirements. Now, let's move into these economic instruments, and in those we will be spending more time now. Those basically create a conducive environment for water projects, and economic instruments are rationing rules or rationing incentives. Which influence the allocation and distribution of water or water-related assets and income. Those economic instruments include charges, for example, abstraction charges, or they also include water tariffs or water pricing for water use, which could be fixed by or regulated by a water authority. That's a water tariff. That's a regulated water price. There might be water subsidies, which may be applied to provide an incentive for the uptake of innovations by promoting money for a defined action or an inaction of the water consumer. And we could take up the example of sanitation in India, where people are, where incentives are given to set up toilets and to use those toilets as well. And then there's another type of economic instruments, which are water taxes and tradable rights. And we will talk about all of them because all of them are extremely important. Now, let's first of all think about the evaluation of these economic instruments. They are evaluated based on efficiency, based on equity, and environmental sustainability, administrative feasibility, and political acceptability. And those are quite interesting. Some of those are part of the sustainability framework, the efficiency, equity, environmental sustainability. But also interesting is the political acceptability. So we see that some of the changes can only take place in terms of how water is being used or what consumers demand from the respective industries when there's a critical mass built up and a political and social acceptance be reached for the implementation of certain economic instruments at a social large scale. Now, let's look into the charges in water management in in the next moment. What a charge is in this context is it's a price that is paid on the use of the environment, essentially. This is what a charge in water management is. And this can be related to two things. One, the water use, and second, the pollution of the water. Because remember that any water use goes hand in hand with water pollution. No matter how well we use our water or how careful we are, any of the use will leave a footprint on our water quality. Now, continuing on these water charges, those can be applied to reduce the demand for water or the pollution of water, both sides. We can influence both of these parts by imposing a fee or a tax on the consumer. And by doing so, we can achieve a number of changes. We can stimulate certain behavior. This influences how people react, how as an individual, or how people react in a group, or how entire societies may behave and change. It may also encourage innovation in technology, very important, that there's a willingness and an interest, a motivation to put resources into research and development in innovation in water technologies. It also achieves to stimulate demand management, and it enables cost recovery. Now, what are the type of charges in water management? One that you probably are familiar with is emission or effluent charges. Those are based upon the quantity or quality of the discharge pollutant. So it means you pay, you are allowed to discharge a certain amount, a quantity, a certain type of pollutant into the river, and for that, by doing so, you are charged a certain amount that you pay, assuming that someone else uses this amount of water to clean up the water pollution. Then there are user charges, and those include, for example, fees that are paid for the use of drinking water and wastewater treatment facilities. Those are water pricing tariffs, and we will be talking about those in depth next time. They're very important. There may be product charges, there may be charges levied on products that are harmful to surface water or groundwater, which may facilitate or introduce pathogens, fertilizers, pesticides, oils, and so on. This may be charged to certain industries, for instance, which are more susceptible to such pollutants. And then there may be an administrative charge, which is a fee paid to an authority for example, a chemical registration or financing, licensing and pollution control activities. So that is administrative to run the operations. Now I want to introduce an additional concept to how water pricing is made, which is to introduce the value of water together with the cost of producing and supplying water. And this chart here shows us both connected to each other. We have on one side all the relevant costs that occur with the finding of water, treating of water, distribution, supply of water. And on the other side, we have the value that we attach to the water at the various stages. So in the list, we have operations and maintenance costs, and we have capital charges, investment costs. And those are usually added up to the full supply costs, and in many cases those are fully charged also. And then we have additionally opportunity costs and economic externalities, which together add up to the full economic cost, which very often has to be paid by somebody, but however it is usually not paid by the individual consumer, the receiver of the service, but paid by the society or some downstream person that is living downstream or far away from where the water service was delivered. So very often, or this is a paid cost, but it is not taken care by the individual water user. And then we have environmental externalities, which add up to the full cost. If you analyze the cost of water from a sustainability standpoint, and this cost usually is not being calculated into any of these common usual economic cost-benefit analysis. So this is a cost that is quietly being taken up by our ecosystems services, and also have their response in our public health. Now, on the same side, on the same scale, we have different values which are worth being paid for. We have a value that is provided to the user of the water by receiving a certain amount at a certain time and a certain quality. And we are usually very willing to pay for that cost. Then there's a net benefit from return flows that is indirectly recognized, and we also value that, but usually we are not accounting specifically to it and getting charged or pay for that. And then we have net benefits from the indirect uses, and we have adjustments for social objectives. Those are, for instance, poverty alleviation or additional employment, or we may achieve food security through it. All of those give this an economic value or a socio-economic value that we recognize, and we may monitor, and we value the success of our social systems, social services against those. And then we have intrinsic values which are not as obvious, like the stewardship, request, and so on. And those add up to the full value of the water, which is very often as such not being recognized by individual water users or by the society as a whole. Now, this coming from economic instruments, keeping in mind the value of water, the benefits of water, and the actual costs of providing the water, takes us to the water pricing concept, which I just want to introduce before we close for today. So water pricing is seen as an important economic instrument to improve water use efficiency, to enhance social equity, and to secure financial sustainability of water utilities and operators. So this combines both of these parts, the value, the benefits from a social point of view with the cost aspect from the financial sustainability equation that I showed you just now. Both of those are combined in the water pricing, and for that become acceptable to the water consumers. And many times those are set in tariffs, and many countries also have tariff systems in place, which, however, vary widely around the world. At this point, I want to stop and we will come in detail to this next time. Thank you.